With Brock Purdy likely out this weekend, the New Orleans Saints have a chance to surprise on Sunday.
With Brock Purdy likely out this weekend, Kyle Shanahan finally gets to call plays for Mac Jones as he always wanted.
You are Locked On NFL Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, everybody, welcome into another crossover Thursday. The New Orleans Saints hosting the San Francisco 49ers. And here to break it all down, Ross Jackson of the Locked On Saints podcast, Brian Peacock of the Locked On 49ers podcast, here for you every single Monday through Friday, breaking down your favorite football teams. Make sure you come through every single Monday through Friday. Thanks for making us your first listen and being an everydayer here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. On today's episode, Brock Purdy might be out for the weekend. We'll dive into the big-time implications of that. We'll also take a look at how this all works with Mac Jones. Can Mac Jones get it done? We'll dive in and we'll talk about the run game, which is going to be the most important element for both of these teams potentially going into Sunday's game outside of the quarterback position. We appreciate you very much for being here. And today's episode is brought to you, like all crossover Thursdays are, by our friends over at Prize Picks, where you can get $50 rather in lineups by playing your first $5 lineup over at Prize Picks today. Go and check them out. Brian, lots of big things going on here, but the number one story for both of these teams has to be all around Brock Purdy. Fill us in. What are we expecting when it comes to Brock Purdy and the 49ers? And what does it mean for San Francisco?
At first, I just got to say, it's a pleasure to talk to you, Ross, but it's also a pleasure to cover the San Francisco 49ers because it's always just insanity. There's always something crazy going on. They're either drafting top three, they're taking quarterbacks, there's quarterback controversies, or they're going and losing Super Bowls. And they've done just about everything you could possibly do as an NFL franchise over the course of the last half dozen years, except for hoist the Lombardi. So we'll see if the 49ers can get there this year. But when it comes to Brock Purdy, the latest from Kyle Shanahan is that it's highly unlikely that he's going to play. And potentially Brock Purdy might not play for multiple weeks with a shoulder injury. He's got a toe injury as well. Kyle Shanahan thinks he can point to play where Brock Purdy got hurt, but it's on shot right now for this week, and it's potentially multiple weeks that we might have a chance to see Mac Jones and not Brock Purdy starting for the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah, and I imagine, Brian, that's compounded big time because Brandon Ayuk, of course, still working his way back overall at the wide receiver spot. George Kittle still are on injured reserve now with the hamstring injury. Juwan Jennings also dealing with some things. So where does the 49ers kind of go here? And who are some of the players that the New Orleans Saints fans need to know that might be stepping in around Mac Jones?
You feel really good right now if you drafted Christian McCaffrey or Ricky Pearsall in your fantasy leagues. I was one of those that drafted Christian McCaffrey 1.1 last year. Did not work out great for me. Christian McCaffrey says that it was blown out of proportion with his calf, which you could see why people would blow that out of proportion. But it's going to be a lot of Christian McCaffrey as it was last week. He got 31 touches last week, 22 carries, 9 receptions. He's on pace for 517 touches. It's unsustainable, but for right now, Kyle Shanahan's trying to win some football games, and that's his best weapon on the offensive side of the ball. If you extrapolate out the last few games going into the end of last year when Ricky Pearsall really started to break out for the 49ers, he's on a 17-game pace of over 100 catches, 1,800 receiving yards, and 11 touchdowns. So that's the guy right now in the passing game for the 49ers, especially with no George Kittle out there. So expect a heavy dose of the run game, a heavy dose of Christian McCaffrey, and when Mac Jones or Brock Purdy, if there's a chance he plays, drop back, they're going to be looking for number one, Ricky Pearsall quite often.
Yeah. A lot of Saints fans really liked Ricky Pearsall coming out of the draft. Really skilled guy, great route runner, just an awesome, gritty player out there. And look, the Saints passing defense had a pretty good day up against the Arizona Cardinals, but did give up some explosive moments, and in particular also gave up over 140 rushing yards. So you have to imagine that Christian McCaffrey and Kyle Shanahan are looking at this Saints defense, kind of licking their chops a little bit. They're excited, I imagine.
That's the game right there. And we could probably end the podcast because if the 49ers are able to run the ball like they want to, and they are going to want to, like that's the path for the 49ers, and there's other matchups that we're going to get into, but that's a huge one. And it always is, Kyle Shanahan wants to run the football. It's not going to be a surprise to the Saints. It's like, oh man, they're really trying to run the ball today and play balanced football. Like that's what Kyle Shanahan wants to do. He wants to have his entire playbook at his disposal all the time. And he'll lean into the run if he has to and if he can. And so that's going to be job number one for the Saints defense is stopping the run clearly. And real quick note on George Kittle and the injury, and it kind of brings it into perspective because we already knew the ACL injury was the major injury coming into the year was Brandon Ayuk's ACL and that he'd be out for probably at least 6 weeks or so. Well, now after getting put on IR through week 5 for George Kittle, he might have played one extra quarter of football year than Brandon Ayuk. So to put that into perspective, right? Like they're going to miss just as much George Kittle just from one hamstring injury potentially as Brandon Ayuk this season if he does come back, and they both come back together in week 6, which will be welcomed at that point. We'll see where the 49ers are. They got to get through New Orleans and the Saints first, which is never an easy place to play.
What's kind of the confidence meter in Mac Jones to step in and do this? Because we've seen guys like Sam Darnold, for instance, come out of the other side of the San Francisco 49ers, a much better quarterback. What's the chance here for Mac Jones to be able to do the same?
Yeah, I think that's why Mac Jones is here. He wants that Kyle Shanahan car wash, right? He wants to come out clean on the other side and for teams to treat him like a starter, because I don't think teams are really treating him like a starter going into this offseason. Yeah. So that's a great place for him to be a backup. And now he gets an opportunity to prove that he's still a starter. I think it's a great scheme for him. He probably doesn't have all the weapons he hoped he would have had at his disposal with Kittle and potentially Brandon Ayuk, although he already knew the Brandon Ayuk injury was happening. But Juwan Jennings, MRIs were good. So Juwan Jennings is going to probably be out there. Don't know 100% yet, but he'll probably be out there with, Kendrick Bourne, who was just signed by the 49ers as well, who Mac Jones has thrown the ball to at least before in his NFL career too. So might have a little rapport there for Mac Jones, but expectations aren't super high. I tend to think he's going to be okay. And, whether it's Mac Jones or Jimmy Garoppolo or Brock Purdy or Sam Darnold, right? Kyle Shanahan is a really good offensive mind, and he's able to elevate his quarterbacks. And if you can throw with some anticipation and get the ball out in timing, you're going to be okay. And look, Mac has a better arm than Brock Purdy. Now, is he as much of a playmaker? Is he going to have that, that cool factor that Brock Purdy has under pressure, where it seems like nothing ever phases the guy, and the guts that Brock Purdy plays with? Does Mac Jones have that? I don't know. So we'll see if Carl Granderson and company can get after him, if that really wreaks havoc. But right now, I think I'm optimistic that he'll be all right. I don't know if he'll be great, but he'll be all right.
Can Mac Jones actually do this, right? Like, what's the opportunity here for him, and what's the matchups that are going? What are the matchups that are going to end up telling the story of this game? We'll dive into all that next as we continue on with this crossover Thursday edition of Locked On 49ers and Locked On Saints, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Saints and Locked On 49ers is brought to you by friends over at Mazda. Mazda creates cars for those who do more than simply move. They go beyond safety. They go beyond all of the things that you're used to seeing when it comes to your typical vehicle, and they look for opportunities to dive in even deeper. Give you a couple of examples here. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride with more IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else as of August 2025. And of course, with all-wheel drive standard across every crossover SUV, you can drive with the confidence of knowing that it's almost any season that you're covered and you're safe. So head over to Mazda now to go and check them out. Just like the players that we cover, they sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. Today's episode also brought to you by friends over at 5 Hour Energy. You're going to be able to turn everything up with 5 Hour Energy Transfusion on the golf course. This grape, ginger, and lime flavored shot brings the iconic flavors of your favorite golf drinks from your favorite golf course and a non-alcoholic boost to get you going all throughout, help you turn that strong front nine into a strong back nine as well. Golf is all about good times with good people and good flavors. The grape, ginger, and lime flavor that you love with the 5 Hour Energy Transfusion gives you the best parts of the clubhouse, go to without leaving the course or chasing down that beverage cart. Now you can amp up the fun with even more. Just buy, snap, and enter for a chance to win your dream golf trip or for two to any golf tournament in the USA. Tee up that trip. Head over to 5thewin.com for full rules and entry. No purchase necessary. Excludes Masters tournament. Ends October 31st, 2025. All right, we're continuing on with our crossover Thursday here, Locked On 49ers and Locked On Saints. And we're taking a look at the biggest matchups that can change the way that this game goes. Brian, why don't you start us off here? What's one of the big matchups that you're watching for the 49ers offense up against the Saints defense?
Well, the big one is the run game we talked about earlier. But beyond that, I think I'm fascinated by maybe some insider knowledge that was gained by the new Saints defensive coordinator in Brandon Staley.
Yeah.
From his time as his assistant head coach, because Kyle didn't get to learn what Staley's defense was because Staley wasn't defensive coordinator. He was just hanging out, getting intel on Kyle Shanahan and how he runs his offense. And so does he have a little extra leg up with what Kyle Shanahan is doing, or a better idea of how to stop Kyle Shanahan's offense now, since he was, in those meetings and in the building? I don't know exactly what meetings he was in, but he was helping out with the offensive side of the ball as well. So he has some extra insider knowledge, and then now he gets to, run his own defense against that with the Saints. So I'm fascinated by that. Does that give him a leg up? I don't know, but clearly I think the 49ers are going to want to run the ball. How do they match up with Christian McCaffrey coming out of the backfield? Because Kyle Shanahan loves to put linebackers in a blender, play action passes, all kinds of motion, throw the ball, over the middle of the field. I've called Kyle Shanahan's offense aggressively intermediate. And people always want to call Kyle Shanahan quarterbacks, whether it's Jimmy G or Brock Purdy, they want to call him check down merchants, check down Charlies. They don't check the ball down in this offense. They're aggressively intermediate. They want tight window throws, and they'll throw without anticipation. They'll throw it by your ear as a linebacker. And you can also get turnovers that way as well. So who wins the middle of the football field might be the ones who win this football game. And I'm really fascinated to see if maybe Brandon Staley learned something over the course of his time with Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah, absolutely, man. That is a big one. We actually asked Kellen Moore on Wednesday's press conference if he talked to Brandon Staley at all about what it is that Kyle Shanahan did in his time with the 49ers. And he kind of played it coy and everything like that, but it's come up over the course of the week. Like, hey, man, what'd you see? What are they doing?
They're a bunch of lying liars, man.
every darn one of them.
Yeah. Kyle Shanahan not wanting to talk about the injuries and let you know exactly what's going on. And of course, we're not going to tell you that, they got a lot of goodies, and we'll see. But it's, you already know what's coming, right? You know what's coming. Can you stop it?
Yeah.
It might be some big boy football up front.
Yeah, absolutely. The next thing for me, sticking with the Saints defense and the 49ers offense, keeping it in that realm, is, to me, the Saints pass rushers. We don't know if former San Francisco 49er, in fact, Chase Young, is going to be available or isn't going to be available for this game just yet. At the time of recording this, we do know that he did not practice on Wednesday at Saints practice. He missed last week up against the Arizona Cardinals, dealing with a calf injury that he sustained in practice, a habitual issue for the New Orleans Saints over the course of the past couple of years, by the way. So that's been a point of frustration for the organization, and I'm sure for the fan base as well. But getting pressure on Mac Jones or Brock Purdy or Adrian Martinez, whoever it is that's back there, that's going to be a key in this one. And the 49ers, Brock Purdy was under a career high in terms of pressure percentage last week, right? Going up against Seattle, it was 50-something%, over 50% of the time that he was under pressure. The Saints would benefit from replicating that, especially if Mac Jones, who hasn't seen a lot of action in recent years, getting that pressure on him would be major and have a big time impact. Saints walked away with 5 sacks last week, 3 from the defensive line, 1 from the linebackers, and 1 from the slot corner on a key late third down. Saints will need to kind of ramp that up and reproduce a little bit of that, getting into the backfield and causing some havoc for the whichever quarterback is back there.
Yeah, no doubt. And Trent Williams even looked human last week. And, there was some nice reps he had, but there was also times when he looked like he was rusty, and he practiced less than any veteran on the team over the course of the summer. So it's natural that if he was somewhat rusty coming into the game. Dominic Puni, I think, playing a little bit hurt right now as well. So, the 49ers offensive line wasn't great in protection. Purdy was pressured too often, and they weren't creating a lot of space in the run game. So it's an offensive line that could be had right now if the Saints defensive line is up to the task.
Yeah, Saints kind of running into them at the quote unquote right time. I'm using the heavy air quotes because we don't want to say that about people's injuries and things like that. But the early season, adjustments and stuff like that are happening for some of these players Trent Williams is one of the best. He's going to be great. But at the early point in the season, this is the right time to kind of catch him if he hasn't been practicing all too much. What are you looking at if we reverse the field and we're talking about that San Francisco defense up against the Saints offense?
Well, really the only thing that was working for the Seattle Seahawks against the 49ers was throwing to Jackson Smith and Jigba. And he kind of moved around and played a lot in the slot, a lot outside. Cooper Kupp got into the action a little bit, but the guy who was targeted the most on the 49ers defense, as you can expect, is a rookie starter in the nickel, late third round pick, nickel cornerback, Upton Stout. And he had the lowest PFF grade on the team, which is not surprising because of how often he was targeted. He had a big penalty as well near the end zone, and kept a drive alive for the Seattle Seahawks. So I expect that, that it's one of the lowest hanging fruits that when you're in the NFL, okay, we got a rookie in the slot, let's go target him. So, Rashid Shaheed, I would imagine, would be someone who is a big part of the game plan anyway for the New Orleans Saints, and target him short, catch and run stuff, deep, try to really take advantage of a young defensive back on the 49ers roster. They're also starting a safety behind him in Marquez Siegel. So, how the rookies hold up is really a big factor for the San Francisco 49ers with the three rookie defensive linemen that play a big part in the rotation as well.
Yeah, that was a big time matchup that I was looking at as well. The Saints, they'll rotate a couple different guys in the slot, but Rashid Shaheed and Brandon Cooks, the wily veteran, are going to be the guys that are going to kind of get those reps every now and then. But if I'm the Saints, I'm trying to get Chris Olave into the slot as well, knowing that he can play there, take advantage of a little bit of that matchup and everything. So I think you're going to see that quite a bit. The Saints lived in 11 personnel last week, 3 wide receiver sets, way more than they did last year. I think they were at over 70%, and they played only a third of their offense out of 11 personnel last year. Hello, Clint Kubiak over in Seattle. And so it was a lot of that kind of, using the slot receiver and everything Sunday up against Arizona. So I can certainly see that being a big part of what they look to do against San Francisco as well.
It's a great note there, Ross, because maybe Clint Kubiak is just not a good offensive coordinator, which is why the Niners were able to sneak out of Seattle with a win last week.
Yeah, he opened up the season so great here. Those first 2 games, everyone was just the talk of the town, the belle of the ball, and then all of a sudden, 7-game losing streak. And so,
throw it out. You think you know what's going on in the league? Throw out that first couple of weeks of the season. You just don't know.
100%. Big thing I'm going to be looking for on the offensive side is pretty obvious on my side too, Brian, and that is Alvin Kamara. So much like you're looking at Christian McCaffrey in the run game for San Francisco, I'm looking at Alvin Kamara in the run game for New Orleans. Take a little bit of that pressure off of a young second-year quarterback in Spencer Rattler, who's only seeing his second start of the season, 8th start of his career. So I think that becomes a big part of it is Alvin Kamara up against guys like, Fred Warner in the passing game and how those two could potentially get matched up and what that looks like, as well as, of course, the offensive line paving the way to go out there and get some rushing yards. But something to be noted for 49ers fans, the Saints will have a backup left guard and potentially a backup right tackle in as well, with Trevor Penning, who got moved into guard this year, and Taliesin Fuanga, who moved from left tackle to right tackle this offseason, with both those guys right now banged up. Neither of them practice on Wednesday. We'll see how the rest of the week progresses for them, but something to watch.
Nick Bosa, it's time to feast, right? I do like the matchup with the Robert Saleh is a linebacker whisper. It's awesome to see D Winters take that big step in year 3 for him. So really fast, athletic linebackers in the middle. It's going to be a good test for them with Alvin Kamara coming out of the backfield.
Big time. All right, next we're going to be taking a look at what each team needs to do to win. We think that the formula is simple for each of these teams, but let's break it all down. We got that coming up for you next as we continue on with this crossover Thursday. Locked On 49ers, Locked On Saints here as part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. The NFL season is here, and they're making sure that you are ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your first bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Here's the way that I like to do this. Take a look at the biggest spreads in week 2 and then bet the money line on the favorite. Right now, the Baltimore Ravens, 11.5-point favorites up against the Cleveland Browns. Playing at home in Baltimore, excellent opportunity to put your first $5 down on a heavy favorite. If they win, then you end up getting $300 in bonus bets, betting the heaviest favorite in the league. A pretty good way to go. Then you can take that $300 in bonus bets, use it on same game parlays, other spreads, lines, props, everything else that you have available all across that fantastic FanDuel app. So are you ready to play? If so, download the FanDuel app by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. All right, everybody, we're wrapping up this crossover Thursday edition. Brian Peacock from Locked On 49ers, Ross Jackson, Locked On Saints. Brian, finish this sentence for us. The San Francisco 49ers win if...
I've got a two-parter. The first part of it is if they're able to run the football. If they are able to create space, that's going to be the plan. They're probably not going to try to go out there and air it out and win the game that way. And, you know, if you can run the ball, Christian McCaffrey, that's the first plan. After that, Mac Jones, don't throw it to the wrong team, right? I think that's the big one for me is Mac Jones turnovers. That's a quick way to lose this game. You know, he's got about an equal touchdown to interception ratio of the last 3 years of his career, which is not great. And even threw an interception in the second preseason game too, before he actually got a little bit nicked up. So don't turn the ball over and run the ball on offense. It's going to be one of those games, grind it out, keep it close, which is why I kind of like the Saints with the points, even though I like the 49ers to still win this game.
Yeah. Saints right now, 5.5-point underdogs at home, or 4.5, 5.5.
I think it was 4.5 this morning when I recorded Peacock and Williamson. So I think 4.5, but it might grow. And if you get a bigger number than 4.5, you might as well take it because it could be that type of a game.
That. Yep, absolutely. I think this is going to be one of those kind of like knockdown, drag out, type of, it's all about the trenches, run game, defense kind of games. And I love those games. That's classic 49ers football right there, which I absolutely love. Let me ask you a quick question about Mac Jones. He was on, you mentioned him getting nicked up in that preseason game. He was on the injury report with a knee injury, but practiced in full. What should Saints fans know about that?
I don't think there's anything there with that. I know he couldn't play in the last preseason game, and so they brought in a couple of guys and then cut him all. So, he was fine to be the full 100% backup for the 49ers, and I think he's okay. And I think they just have to be, you just have to put stuff on the injury report that exists, but I don't think it's anything, I mean, something to monitor if he re-injures it. You might see some Adrian Martinez action, which the 49ers are no strangers to just weird players needing to play because of injuries on their team.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, look, the Saints aren't either. Same boat, my friend. Something about those West Virginia training camp practice days, man. There's a curse there, I think, that just follows these two teams around constantly.
Do you over practice? Do you under practice? Do you build a callus, or do you just not let guys practice so they don't get hurt? And then they pull a hammy when they didn't practice enough. Yeah, there's no right answer.
Dude. It's tough. It's absolutely tough. I think the New Orleans Saints win if they can run the football. So I'll steal yours, right? Looking at where your first one with Christian McCaffrey, but then flip it over and take a look at the Saints with Alvin Kamara. That becomes the big thing for them. The Saints averaged over 6 yards per carry with their running backs in the first half up against the Arizona Cardinals, 1.36 yards in the second half, completely got away from the run game because of that. And in particular, it was a lack of efficiency in first down rushes that forced the Saints to kind of go to the passing game and really lean into the passing game because of the game situation, even though they were within a touchdown and a field goal at the worst at one point during this game. So not a big blowout that they had to really throw themselves into. But when you have a second-year quarterback like Spencer Rattler throwing 46 passes in a game, that's probably not necessarily the way that you want to go if you're the New Orleans Saints. You'd like to be able to run the football all 4 quarters. So I would actually go a little bit deeper on this and say that it's not just about running the football for New Orleans, but it's about running the football in the second half in particular, especially if they're in a place to where they're keeping the game close or in the lead, but more likely if they're keeping the game close, just being able to run the football efficiently in the second half, I think will do wonders for them and their efficiency on the offensive side of the ball.
Oh yeah, and maybe make a field goal too. Niners have a new field goal kicker. after 1
Oh
week.
yeah, big for you. Big
cutting Jake Moody and signing Eddie Pinheiro, which I think your listeners will get a kick out of it, that Eddie Pinheiro had offers from the Falcons and the Niners. And he said, yeah, I don't want to play for the Falcons. I'll go play for the 49ers.
I love that. All right, let's get our predictions in here as we wrap things up. Brian, what are you thinking for this game? And the spread now, by the way, 3 points. And I think that has a lot to do. So San Francisco's still the favorite, but obviously it's got a lot to do with the Brock Purdy news.
Okay, good. I'm glad I got in at the 4.5 points. Then we made our picks on Peacock and Williamson. I've got it as a 3-point game, so they've got it to the right spot. I don't think it changes that much as it'll probably move the line with Mac Jones going in there for Brock Purdy, because I think it was going to be a similar game plan either way. Just as just again, like I mentioned, just as long as Mac Jones doesn't start throwing the ball to the other team and really create a hole for the 49ers. I think it's gonna be a close game. I know it's always a tough place to play in New Orleans, and I got the Niners winning by 3, 17-14 is what I'm kind of looking at.
Yeah, mine's really close to that as well. I've got the Niners winning this game 19-16, and so a 3-point win as well. And that could be a last-second situation, or it could be the Saints coming up short, trying to close a gap like last week. But in any case, I've got New Orleans dropping this one by 3 as well. But this is a major opportunity for them to at least impress by hanging in there and competing, regardless of who's at quarterback. You're going up against Kyle Shanahan and Robert Saleh. That's a really, really good pair of coaches. If you can hang in there with that, I think that says a lot about where this team is, and it says a lot about guys like Kellen Moore and Brandon Staley too.
Absolutely. It's going to be a fun one. I can't wait. I always like those New Orleans games. I've even done some New Orleans area Louisiana radio this week too. So I know you guys are fired up about this one.
Yeah, everybody's looking forward to where this goes. And of course, everybody should be looking forward to the next episodes of Locked On 49ers and Locked On Saints as we dive in even deeper on this matchup. So make sure you come back for the Friday episodes for both of these shows. Listen to each show too, if you're on the other side of it, to kind of get an idea of what each team is looking to do. Really good stuff for you here across the Locked On Podcast Network. There's not a lot better out there, I'll be fully honest with you, than Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker over at Locked On 49ers. Phenomenal show. Make sure you go and check our guys out. Brian, thank you so much, man. This was a blast, and I look forward to doing this again in the NFC Championship game. No, I'm just kidding. We'll see you next year, man. Thanks for joining us, everybody. And of course, we appreciate you very much for being here with us. Check us out, being everydayers. Make us your first listen. Don't forget to like and subscribe and enjoy. Come back for more of the shows, and we'll see you here next time on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.